I went ahead, yeah, I've already done the check mark for getting started with chapter 6. So this is going to be episode 39, managing user authentication using Passport. So all this will change. All that's pre-notes, except for the top one, authentication using Passport. That's where we're getting started at. Uh, so here we go. Managing user authentication using Passport. Yeah, that's what I put in the notes. Passport is a robust piece of Node.js authentication middleware that helps you to authenticate requests sent to your Express application. Passport uses strategies to utilize both local authentication and OAuth authentication providers such as Facebook, Twitter, and Google. Using Passport strategies, you'll be able to seamlessly offer different authentication options to your users while maintaining a unified user model. In this chapter, you'll go through the following basic features of Passport: understanding Passport strategies, integrating Passport into your user's model view controller architecture, using Passport's local strategy to authenticate users, utilizing Passport OAuth strategies, offering authentication through social OAuth providers. Bum. Introducing Passport. This one won't be bad. The next two pages are going to be pretty thick. So we'll review this. It's a little thick. I mean, it's a little techy. Let's see. Introducing Passport. Authentication is a vital part of most web applications. Handling user registration and sign-in is an important feature that can sometimes present a development overhead. Express, with its lean approach, lacks this feature, so as is usual with Node, an external module is needed. Authentication is a vital part of most web applications. Handling user registration and sign-ins is an important feature that can sometimes present a development overhead. Express, with its lean approach, lacks this feature, so as is usual with Node, an external module is needed. Okay. Passport is a Node.js module that uses the middleware design pattern to authenticate requests. It allows developers to offer various authentication methods using a mechanism called strategies. That's a bold. Is it a link? Okay. Which allows you to implement a complex authentication layer while keeping your code clean and simple. Just as with any other Node.js module, before you can start using it in your application, you'll first need to install it. The examples in this chapter will continue directly from those in previous chapters. So for this chapter, copy the final example from chapter 5, Introduction to Mongoose, and let's start from there. Installing Passport. Passport uses different modules, each representing a different authentication strategy, but all of which depend on the base Passport module. To install the Passport base module, change your package.json file as follows. Passport, you're just adding it at the bottom right there. Before you continue developing your application, make sure you install the new Passport dependency. To do so, go to your applications folder and issue the following command in your command line tool: npm install. This will install the specified version of Passport in your Node modules folder. Once the installation process has successfully finished, you will need to configure your application to load the Passport module. Configuring Passport. To configure Passport, you will need to set it up in a few steps. To create the Passport configuration file, go to the configure folder and create a new file named passport.js. Okay, we're about halfway through the page. 4 minutes. Almost 5 minutes. Never set Eggman. Just put him on 20. To configure Passport, you will need to set it up in a few steps. To create the Passport configuration file, go to the config folder and create a new file named passport.js. Leave it empty for now. We will return to it in a bit. Next, you will need to require the file you just created, so change your server.js file as follows. um, passport equals configure passport. So we're just adding this line. My eyes are getting tired right here. Yep, require configure passport. So we're adding 2 lines. Next, you'll need to register the passport middleware in your Express application. To do so, change your configure Express.js file as follows. Require passport. App use passport. Initialize app use passport session. Let's go over the code you just added. First, you required the passport module, and then you registered to middleware. The passport initialize middleware, which is responsible for bootstrapping the passport module, and the passport session middleware, which is using the Express session to keep track of your user session. To keep track of your user session. Passport is now installed and configured, but to start using it, you'll have to install at least one authentication strategy. We'll begin with the local strategy, which provides a simple username password authentication layer. But first, let's discuss how passport strategies work. I'm going to bypass checking this for now. That was a good little overview, but we haven't actually done. I was going to copy the code from 6, but as easy as this is, we might just build off 5 before actually running anything. I'm going to do one more. Let's see. Yeah, we'll finish this episode. We'll go to understanding. Let's see. Let's copy this to notes first. Introducing passport. And we'll put that in a bolded area. Okay, we're still working. This is episode 39. We'll put it right here. Using middleware. Authentication using passport. Paste. And we'll copy these bolds down. This one's a little more versatile. Introducing passport. I don't know that I need that really. Might be overnoting. Okay, let's try that again. Introducing passport. Oh, installing passport. That's a good one. So let's bring it back. I want to keep doing the B's like that. I might even delete them out. We'll see. Introducing passport. Stalling passport. Come on. Just try my left hand for a while. Just trying to let my right rest anyways. Copy. And between the builds, we did introducing passport. Now we're just going to do installing. And then configuring, it's another good one. So we got 3 sections. Let's add our third. Configuring, is that what we said? I think so. Configuring passport. That's the end of our page. Okay, so we've kind of reviewed this. We got plenty of time. Let's go ahead and maybe get our notes set up for let's see, understanding passport strategies. That's the one that really needs bolded. I should delete the bolds on all those last ones. But that's not what this series is about. Configuring passport, installing passport. Strategies seem like a key word here. Let's take these bolds out kind of quick. If everything's in a strong bold, all of a sudden nothing's strong bolded. Oh, I do want that one introducing. Authentication using passport. Maybe not. Not bad. Take that one out. And I can take these off too. Just trim the ends. Happy little mistakes. Control S, okay. That should update us. Understanding passport strategies. And then using passport's local strategy. Okay, should get us ahead for a little bit. To offer its various authentication options, Passport uses separate modules that implement different authentication strategies. Each module provides a different authentication method, such as username, password authentication, and OAuth authentication. So in order to offer Passport supported authentication, you'll need to install and configure the strategies modules that you'd like to use. Let's begin with the local authentication strategy, using Passport's local strategy. Installing Passport's local strategy. You can over-notate. Let's just leave it at that. Local strategy, you gotta install it. Passport's local strategy is a Node.js module that allows you to implement a username password authentication mechanism. You'll need to install it like any other module and configure it to use your user mongoose model. Let's begin by installing the local strategy module. Installing Passport's local strategy module. To install Passport's local strategy module, you'll need to add Passport local to your package.json file as follows. Passport local. And go to your applications root folder. Initial the following command in your command line tool. Install. This will install the specified version of the local strategy module in your node modules folder. When the installation process has successfully finished, you'll need to configure Passport to use the local strategy. Configuring Passport's local strategy. Each authentication strategy you'll use is basically a node module that lets you define how that strategy will be used. In order to maintain a clear separation of logic, each strategy should be configured in its own separated file. In your config folder, create a new folder named strategies. Inside this new folder, create a file named local.js that contains the following code snippet. Okay, so we're not modifying a file. We got to make this whole thing. Inside the new folder, create a file named local.js that contains the following codes. Configure strategies local.js. Okay. The preceding code begins by requiring the Passport module the local strategy modules, strategy object, and your user mongoose model. Then you register the strategy using the passport use method, which uses an instance of the local strategy object. Notice how the local strategy constructor takes a callback function as an argument. It will later call this callback when trying to authenticate a user. So actually stop this for a second. I kind of skipped over all that. Notice what constant passport, constant local strategy, constant user, module exports function, passport use new local strategy, username, password, done, user find one, username, error user, if error, return done, error, if not user, return done, null, false, message unknown user. Error user, if error, return done, error. User find one, username. If not user, authenticate password, return done, null, false, message invalid password. Okay. Proceeding code begins by requiring the passport module, the local strategy modules, strategy object, and your user mongoose model. Then you register the strategy using the passport use method, which uses an instance of the local strategy object. Notice how the local strategy constructor takes a callback function as an argument. It will later call this callback when trying to authenticate a user. The callback function accepts 3 arguments: username, password, and a done callback, which will be called when the authentication process is over. Inside the callback function, we use the user mongoose model to find a user with that username and try to authenticate it. In the event of an error, you will pass the error object to the done callback. When the user is authenticated, you will call the done callback with the user mongoose object. Remember the empty config password. Remember the empty config passport.js file. How did I remember? I know it was coming as a question. I didn't see the question mark, but just the way it was worded, I knew it was going to be a question. I feel so in sync with this book sometimes. And others not so much, but I'll eventually get there. Remember the empty config passport.js file? Well, now that you have your local strategy ready, oh yeah, that empty file, you can go back and use it to configure the local authentication. To do so, go back to your config passport.js file and paste the following lines of code. Require passport, mongoose require, module exports, constant user mongoose module passport, serial, that's the new bit. Serialize user, passport, deserialize user, ID done, user find one, ID, password, salt, we're getting into security here now, serialize and salt. It's part of, authentication, local authentication, I knew that was coming, but those are some new keywords that I recognize from PHP experience. Strategies require strategies local JS. Proceeding code snippet, the passport serialize user. Oh, we're still so far near the top of the page. 18 minutes. Alright. Proceeding code snippet, the passport serialize user and passport deserialize user methods are used to define how passport will handle user serialization. When a user is authenticated, passport will save its ID property to the session later on. When the user object is needed, passport will use the ID property to grab the user object from the database. Notice how we used the filled options argument to make sure Mongoose doesn't fetch the user's password and salt properties. The second thing the preceding code does is include the local strategy configuration file. This way your server.js file will load the passport configuration file, which in turn will load its strategy's configuration file. Next, you'll need to modify your user model to support passport's authentication. Next, you'll need to modify your user model, adapting the user model. In the previous chapter, we started discussing the user model and created its basic structure. In order to use the user model in your main application, you'll have to modify it to address a few authentication process requirements. These changes will include modifying user schema adding some pre-middleware, and adding some new instance methods. To do so, go to your app models user.js file and change it as follows. For the salt type string, provider type string required, provider is required, provider ID string, provider data, user schema pre save. This salt buffer crypto random byte 16 to string base 64 base 64. This password equals this hash password, this password. User schema pre buffer. So it's picking all, it's good. It's picking all this up somewhere for us. It's doing some work in the chain. This hash password. Find unique username. Possible username equals username plus suffix. This find one username, possible username. If not error, if not user, callback possible username, else return this find unique username suffix, or 0 plus 1 callback, else callback null. User schema set to JSON getters, true, virtuals, true, mongoose model user. Well, there's a lot of new stuff there, and that all that we had to scroll through is in here, but this is still at the top of the page. So this is a really dense, packed page. There's a lot going on. Let's go over these changes. Alright, where are we at on time? We got 3 minutes left. I so want to find a bookmark. There's probably a Chrome plugin I need to search for that would like hold where we're at on the page. See if I can get another episode in tonight. As far as notes, let's go back to the notes and wrap those up, and then we'll start for next ones. We're in episode 39 still. Let's see. There it is. Did I overwrite? Yeah, 39. Let's make this wider maybe. That'll help. No, it looks like something. Okay. Back up. Did I lose it? 39. Yeah, 27, 28, 29, 30. Looking too far ahead now. Yeah, it's chapter 5. Should be in chapter 6. Previewed chapter 6. Here we go. 39. Authentication. Introducing passport. Installing passport. Understanding passport. Using passport's local strategy. That's about what we got this episode. 90 seconds left. So next episode, let's just copy this. List item to list item. Still be in chapter 6, managing user authentication using passport. Oh wait, is that still 39? So this will be 40. Still linking to the book. Authentication using passport. Introduce. Yeah, we didn't check it off because we didn't actually do the code. So when we come back, we'll keep with the code from chapter 5 as long as we can until we get to something that's giving us an error. Be a little more work, but it'll be worth it just to review what we need to understand here. So we'll actually go over all this again. So I'm good with that. And we're at 25 minutes. Thanks, folks. See you soon. Here, I'll do this. Oh yeah, we already got a preview going. It's this one. Okay, so pull that down. Yeah, we'll minimize this. And there, episode 40. That's where we'll start off next time. And actually, if I can get this one in, I said we'd do the code, didn't I? If I can get that one in right quick, I'll call it a day. That'd be the lunch break on Wednesday, but it'll be my overnight. I'll go ahead and get some rest. Start shutting the server down and let it power down for the night. Could just delete everything and start with 6, but then there's really nothing to do. It'll be good. I'll just finish reading this and then turn the servers off. Maybe. We'll see. We'll take a break for now. Stop recording.